Washington Post, the venerable beacon of American journalism, is nestled snugly in the expansive portfolio of Amazon.com. Within its hallowed digital pages works David Ignatius, arguably the most illustrious of its editorial lineup. Famous for his unwavering faith in Pentagon prophecies and CIA escapades, Ignatius is the oracle who keeps on giving. This season's revelation? The ATACMS-300 missile, destined to change the game in Ukraine, or so he claims. And we will look into how true this idiot's analysis is.
Welcome to TFI Global, the antidote to mass delusion.
Washington Post is an American newspaper owned by Amazon.com. It has many editors, but David Ignatius is the most interesting of them. David Ignatius, the favorite prophet of Pentagon, prowess and CIA shenanigans, is back at it with his crystal ball. This time he is heralding the ATACMS-300 long-range missile as the game changer in Ukraine's conflict. According to him, these new toys will let Ukraine poke far into Russian-held backyard, scrambling their supply lines like eggs at a brunch buffet. Ignatius spins a tale where these precision-guided presents might just carve a path to a peaceful resolution, adding another layer of hope that Ukraine's independence isn't just a fleeting dream. This sounds awfully rosy, doesn't it? Especially when you consider that we have been down this road before with Mr. Ignatius and his forecasts. Remember last year's hype around the HIMARS missiles? Those were also supposed to be the game changers. Yet here we are, still waiting for the game to change, while Russian electronic warfare turned these dreams into static. And it's not just about the electronic jamming jazz. Ignatius seems to have skipped a few notes on his keyboards while playing his latest symphony of optimism. Let's talk air defense, shall we? The Russian arsenal is like a multi-layered onion of anti-missile systems, from the snazzy Panzer S-1 to the formidable S-400. These layers are designed to make any missile's life miserable, including our star of the show, the ATACM. Considering each ATACM system can cost about $1.5 billion versus the $15 million for a Panzer. It's like betting a yacht against a dinghy in a high-stakes race. Plus, let's not forget the slow waltz of weapon deliveries that has left Ukraine's defenses panting. Last month's scoreboard read Russia grabbed 35 square miles of turf while Ukraine reclaimed a modest 1. So while Ignatius paints a picture of missile magic paving the road to victory, the reality on the ground might just need a bit more than just shiny new rockets to turn the tide. Maybe next week, David will tell us about another miraculous weapon system, but for now, let's just say we're not holding our breath. David's last year's sage advice about the Abrams and Leopold tanks making a splash on the Ukrainian front had us all tuned in. According to the whispers in Washington and Berlin, these tanks were supposed to be the heavy metal heroes in Ukraine's rock band. But as it turns out, they were more like a one-hit wonder than a revolutionary change. As these tanks rolled in, Russia just kept on tuning its own military machine, barely missing a beat. Fast forward to today, and the narrative isn't much sunnier. The reality is Russia holds a stacked deck with more troops and toys. The idea of Ukraine flipping this grim script seems about as likely as finding a unicorn at a horse race. Yet, amid this bleak outlook, Vladimir Putin is like the gambler who keeps upping the ante, ready to take his economy anywhere to keep the military machine humming. Russia is now throwing a third of its national budget into the military machine, with tax hikes on the horizon to keep the war chest filled. On the economic front, Russia is betting big but facing tech troubles and stiff sanctions that leave it lagging in the global tech race. Yet Putin is playing the long game. With oil and gas sales to China and India keeping the Russian budget afloat, it seems the Kremlin's war fund is not drying up anytime soon. Meanwhile, back in the US, the Cold Warriors are dusting off their old playbooks, preaching that military aid is the only way to keep Ukraine from folding. They paint a dire picture. Without US help, Russian boots could march from the Black Sea all the way to Poland. And just when you thought the Cold War rhetoric was old news, they talk of gearing up for a showdown with China by 2027. It's like we're back in the 50s and 60s. Only the actors have changed, but the script eerily similar.